Welcome back to the third instalment. Still going, it's still here. Haven't sold it yet. Close. This episode, going to mainly be cracking on with some bit more bodywork. Going to do a bit of filling, rust treatment, solve a few more problems. Low hanging fruit mainly. There's the sort of things I really want to nail off the list. Get the list written out on the board and yeah, start making my way through. Bit of a bitch with the engine. There's some stuff there that I found out needs doing that I really wanted to avoid, but it's not as well. It could be potentially worse, but we'll see. Anyway, let's go on with the episode. Just sanded back the areas here and then went over them with a bit of 120, then a bit of 240, then just gave them a light coat of, probably a bit of a too thick a coat to be honest, on my heavy hand, a primer just so I can sand them back and see where I've got any high spots, anything like that. Done the same here. I can already see there's some parts still there that need a couple of more coats. But I'll sand those, I'll flat those back and then go over them again a couple of times just to kind of get them sorted. Then down the side, while I'm waiting for all that to dry, what I started on, I got the old angle grinder out, favourite tool, because you know it's an angle grinder, and ground back all the rust on, just do it this way even, and ground back all the rust on this section here, so you can see where I've painted it with the Crust stuff. So all the whole inner arch I ground back, and that was the worst down by the bottom there, so ground that right back and hit it with the Crust hammerite. So I'll do all that and then again hit it with a small coat over the top and seal that up once it's had a couple of layers on there. While all of that is still doing its thing rust wise, I thought I'd move on to this. So that went down a bit messy. It looks like a child's done it, but I think I put a bit too much hardener in the. I think I put a bit too much hardener in the mix because it started to go off like a motherfucker. So I had to be fairly quick. But the epoxy on that overnight actually set quite well. So that side was slightly torn where while I was parked in town, someone kind of caught hold of the side of the bumper and ripped it off, so it tore it around there. So I epoxied it down on the back, so that's all tightly put back together, and I wanted to give it a skim over. So that's a slightly rough skim, but what I'll do as soon as that's set this afternoon, I'll give it a sand back and try and shape that up a bit more with a bit of sandpaper. But bodywork in general is coming on okay. I'm fairly pleased considering I haven't done this for years, beyond years, and I've kind of just picked bits up as I go. So yeah, carry on with that, sand that back this afternoon, and I think I'm gonna even move on to have a check out this misshapen arch now. But I've got a feeling the best way to do that will be to take this wheel off. So that one, I'll come back to that one this afternoon. So last time I mentioned that the fog lights, washers and horn weren't working because this little beauty wasn't plugged in. But I couldn't find where it went in. Now I took the headlight out and that gave me a nice bit of access to find, tucked away, the culprit. So this looks like, judging by the colours on the loom and the fact that it's exactly the same fitment, fits in there. Now I'm still left with this one, but it doesn't look like it's been plugged in forever. So I might just give it a bash afterwards and see if that works. But hopefully now I've got that one, all of this will work. As you can see, that's still broken. I need to order one of those. Need to also fix all the rest of the bumper, but need to order one of those. Get some hose pipe, run it along there, a couple of T-pieces, couple of Jubilee clips, and that should fix, well, 3 of the things on my list. So not too bad getting there piece by piece. One thing that I have worked out though, which is a complete pain in the twat, is the reason it came in here in the first place was the poor running, so the misfire that keeps occurring. In fact, one of the plugs keeps on getting oiled up, so I did a lot of research on this, tried to work out what the issue was. A lot of people have had the same thing, and it turns out it comes down to the valve stem seals. So when the seal is worn on the valves, it lets oil through, so then it oils up this particular cylinder and it causes a misfire. So that, parts wise, isn't that expensive. I mean, it's about $250 I think for the new seals and gasket, but then you have all of the other associated things as well. Do you upgrade the valves while you're there? Do you replace all the valves, all the springs, or do you just keep the ones you have? If you upgrade all the valves and the springs, you're talking probably about $1,500, and that's obviously with the labour being done by ourselves at the same time. So that's a bit of a pain in the arse. Something I will do though, because that's the thing that's really stopping it from running that well. I was contemplating at the same time doing all the chain and tensioners, but to be honest, they haven't caused many issues so far. There's a slight noise at startup, but it's really not that bad. It's not a constant noise, and it hasn't been giving me a lot of problems, touch wood, so far. So I'd like to avoid taking the entire engine out and doing that, because that's probably about £3 worth of work. So I will do it when it comes to it, but right now the main aim is to kind of get this back running nicely, and so I'll do that with the replacing of the valve stem seals. Though that in itself is a big job, me and my wife reckon we can give it a bash though. She's got small fingers and she's got a good attention to detail, so this will mean obviously taking the heads off both sides. Pain in the arse because it's 40 on this one, so 40 valves, so that means obviously head's completely off, and yeah, that'll be an interesting one. There's not a lot of space under here, so front of the engine bay will have to come off, all of this will come off, take the heads off and do that. So that's the biggest job to get done, hence the reason I'm concentrating on doing the easy stuff first. If I can get this stuff sorted, then I'll tackle that, which seems a lot more daunting now. But I'm going to get the bodywork sorted because it might take me a while to do all that. I have to do all the arches and all the doors as well. Then I need to find somewhere decent to paint them. I was going to give it a bash myself, but I do want it to look decent, so I don't really want to give that a go. There's a guy next door, literally next door to my house, that's just opened a garage with paint booth, so I'm going to see what they can do in there, see if we can come to some sort of arrangement.